we've been delighted to get to know Bronx Community College, and those of you who obviously know the campus very well, it is one of the gems in CUNY's crown. The campus itself from the air is comprised of two major building campaigns when it was NYU's University Heights campus. One was by Stanford White, and the other was by Marcel Breuer, both very important architects of their time. The campus as it is now, with the McKinley White buildings, including Gould Memorial Library on the upper left, the Hall of Fame of Great Americans on the upper right, and language and philosophy halls all fronting a beautiful lawn. These buildings are really the best from their period from the late 19th century and compete favorably with such buildings like Columbia University. On the same campus, Marcel Breuer worked in the 50s, 60s, and 60s on a modernist campus adjacent to this original Stanford White campus. The one thing that's important to note is even Marcel Breuer, as a strict modernist, did use the same warm Roman brick, tried to bring some of those materials from the original campus in. We immediately came to this campus and said, if you're going to do something on this great campus, it can't just be a mill library or instruction building. It really needs to look towards the stars. And we looked at McKinley White's work at Boston Public Library, one of the great libraries in the United States, even though it's in Boston. And also even their inspiration was the Bibliothèque Sainte-Geneviève in Paris by Henri Labrousse, to understand how you can have a building with one layer of things on the ground floor and then a grand library upstairs. So it really is a program where, unlike a lot of four-year colleges, as you know, community college students use their library heavily. They often don't have quiet spaces at home to study. They often don't have computers and access to technology, so they use this library heavily. Now, this is just a quick overview. This was one of McKinley White's master plans for the campus, and our site is right there. So these were never built, these buildings, the rest of this campus, but that's where the site would be today. But we also did a lot of research with the help of people at CUNY in understanding all the different master plans for this site. You see where it says geology and biology, that's our site. Those buildings were never built. And this was a plan by Olmsted Brothers, which is Frederick Law Olmsted's firm after he died. What was important about this study was it showed us that they had pushed buildings a little bit closer into the lawn than we had previously expected, but still reinforcing the three main axes of the building. That library is the Gould Memorial Library we were talking about. You can see that curved piece is the Hall of Fame, and the two buildings were language and philosophy. All of those were built. It also set up a secondary access from what is called chemistry there. It's now called Havemeyer Hall, another building that was actually built. So those shaded buildings are existing on the campus. So our building would go at that location, at the same location that Olmsted had planned chemistry and biology. We would also look at a mirror image of that old laboratory building to help recreate this geometry from a master plan that was unbuilt. We also looked at another master plan, this was by McKinley White themselves, that set up a big oval at the center of the two axes as a way to plan that quad. The quad is beautiful but underutilized because it has a row of trees down the center, which doesn't allow BCC to have their graduations. They can only use half of the lawn at a time, and also the pathways through it don't allow students to really use the space. So we looked at all of those things and took the existing plan and created this new idea about how the new building would fit into a newly regenerated landscape. And the landscape is something that would happen over time. It's not necessarily, the whole lawn is not part of this project, but it's a master plan to start to get the college interested in fundraising and thinking about how to move forward. So our building, which is that in yellow here, does what we talked about with that other plan. It sets up these axes, or lines of sight, from the old buildings across the campus, as we saw in that Olmsted plan, and also comes out of the front door and is faced with this great lawn. But also, that star is the entry to the Hall of Fame of Great Americans, one of New York City's great landmark spaces that everyone, if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend a quick trip to the Bronx. And we use that as the line that organizes the entire building. So you come out of this building in that direction and you could enter the Hall of Fame, which exits down in the Breuer campus. Quickly, there is a basement mechanical system, but that was pushed as far to this corner of the project as possible because the land slopes away and it allows us to put a basement in without doing very much excavation on a very rocky site. The ground floor plan has a main entrance on the lawn, has secondary entrances so that it flows in and out, especially when lots of students are coming in and out in changes of classes. And it has a main spine down the center, which accesses all of the classrooms. There are classrooms, the size of the classrooms was determined by the space planning master plan to understand what the needs at Bronx Community College were now. There's also people coming into the building, into the library entrance, and where those two things cross, we created a hub of activity which would have a cafe off of it and just space to be able to sit down and wait between classes. Another thing that is in desperate need on the campus is just hangout space between classes. The library itself is entered, you come in through these doors, and you have an elevator in that location, but you also have a major stair. So most people who are not physically handicapped will use the stairs, which will allow us to have less load on the elevator. You come up the stairs around the side, and you end up on the second floor, the information commons floor, which is what they call a library these days, but it really is the place where all the computers are. From this location, you get these fantastic views to the north and to the west, which you can actually see the cloisters and you can see the Henry Hudson Bridge from this location. Then you come in through that red line is the security perimeter. All this time has been flexible. You can run around anywhere you want in this building, which allows the library to remain closed, for example, while the classrooms below are open. That gives flexibility because we never know how funding is going to be in the next 10 or 15, 20 years as to library funding versus BCC funding overall. And then you come into the information commons, which is this main space, and we'll see a little bit more about that in a minute. That star is the circulation desk. It's actually the one place where there will always be a staff member monitoring who goes in and who comes out. But we separated the reference and the technical desks, which allows you, if you have a question about, the capital of Zimbabwe, you go to the reference desk. If you have a question about the problem we had, like just now, trying to plug in your laptop into the system, you go to the tech desk. Also, all the way around, those light blue areas with the S's in it are study rooms, which is one of the things that, in particular, community college, but all college libraries desperately need, is places for 4 to 6 or 8 to 10 students to get together to work on group work. A lot of the BCC curriculum is based on group work and learning to work together, so these study rooms are desperately needed on campus. There's also a classroom within the library, and this is different from the classrooms downstairs because this is where students learn how to use a library and how to use the resources that a library has to offer. And there's also these 4 bays, these 4 areas of soft lounge seating that have a fantastic view across the lawn. Another, again, desperate need on campus is formal uses. And the staff area is off to the side. So what you can see is the public part of the library is this big rectangular space. Now, again, see that arrow is starting to go up a staircase, and there's an elevator here, a different elevator that only serves this floor and the floor above, so that the 2 elevators are in different sides of the security perimeter, allowing a handicapped person to get through, but not having the problems we've seen on some other campus libraries where you have an issue with the elevator creating a security breach problem with the collection. You get upstairs through that staircase. You enter into that big volume again where all the books are. And then there's a big double height space that looks down on that information commons with great views into that. And then there's study spaces all along the perimeter here on the south facing that beautiful lawn. Fantastic views there as well as off to the sides. And then in this, above that place where the staff was, in this what we call the annex, which is not a very nice name for it, but that's where the law library is, which is another great program at BCC, is a paralegal program.